you're serious. You have 100 people. It's $1 million shoot possibly. Like, there's so much riding on it, and there's so much pressure that you have to be able to handle more than what's given on a normal situation, because it's going to be crazy the day of. If you push it on set and mess up, then you're gonna, I mean, that's gonna be bad. That's gonna be bad in all aspects. Because if you're going for YouTube, if you're going for professional Hollywood shoots, if you're going for anything, it needs to start because you love to do it. Because this hobby takes so much effort, time, and learning that if you don't love it, you really can't do it. And so I mean, to get to that level. So like flying for fun, you don't have to be good to fly for fun. You just fly for fun. You do it because you love it.
360 cams like this Insta360 One R give so much creativity to filmmakers because they let the filmmaker choose after the fact what they want the camera to be looking at. I went over all of this in my review of the Insta360 One R. I'm going to put it in the end card at the end of this video, and you should check it out if this video piques your interest. Basically, the camera captures everything in a 360-degree sphere around itself, and then after the fact, you go into the software and you choose where the camera is going to be looking. And that is particularly appropriate for quadcopters. How many times have you seen like a quadcopter is chasing a drift car and the quad is kind of chasing the car, but then the quad like gets out ahead of the car and has to slow down or has to flip up and flip over and it's kind of cool. But it also is kind of like, what if the quadcopter could just fly next to the car and then like the camera could be like on a gimbal where the camera just rotates around to look at the car and the pilot doesn't have to think about where the camera is facing. Oh yeah, that exists. If you're flying a DJI S1000, if you're flying a giant, even like a DJI Inspire, if you're flying a big camera rig, that exists. And you need a second camera operator to run the camera. But what if you just have a little acro drone? Well, that's where 360 cams come in. Because the 360 cam, you know that as long as you are near your subject, you'll be able to reframe the image in post, point the camera where it needs to be pointing, and get the shot that you wanted to get. But here's the problem. With normal drones, the 360 cam, maybe it's mounted on top of the drone. Sometimes they mount it underneath the drone. Sometimes they mount it on like even a little extension pole down far below the drone. But the problem is that no matter where you put the camera, there is a huge chunk of your shot that is being taken up by your own butt. So if the car that you're chasing is back here, you can't see it. And if it's even like over here, your motors are in the shot. And a lot of people don't want that. Ren from Corridor Digital tried to make what he called the God mode camera. He tried to make a drone where the drone wasn't visible from the camera's perspective. And he did a pretty good job. But StanFPV, the guy who invented the quadcopter we're looking at today, the Cine-Bird, StanFPV Cine-Bird did it better than Ren. No offense, Ren, but this guy's a pro. So here's the StanFPV Cine-Bird, and the key to the StanFPV Cine-Bird is that it is super thin. And the reason that matters is because every 360 cam has a thing that's called the stitch line. If you look at these lenses, these are 180-degree lenses. They can see directly above them, directly below them, but you can see that there is a tiny sliver right here, the width of the camera, that they cannot see. And anything that is within that tiny, tiny dimension is going to be invisible to the camera's view. In fact, that means that this 360 camera is not truly capturing a full 360-degree sphere. The 360-degree sphere has a tiny slice cut out of it at the direct top and direct bottom, and that is where StanFPV hides the Cine-Bird. The entire quadcopter fits within the stitch line, which means that no matter where your subject is, as long as your subject can be picked up by the camera, there will be no part of the quadcopter visible in your shot. That's pretty freaking cool. So I want to talk to you today about, the process of designing the Cine-Bird. Like, what kind of things you thought about and what kind of hurdles you had to overcome. Like, why you chose the motors that you did and so forth. A little bit of that. But then I also want to talk to you about, what's it like? How do you use it? What is it like shooting a commercial with an FPV drone?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
So I think we should start with, just the design of this frame.
This was what led to the Cine-Bird.
Okay, that's it.
So
that's the napkin drawing.
Yeah, it's a napkin drawing, and that's what turned into the original. It's there's more than meets the eye, obviously. I actually saw a video from my friend Rimsler where he took apart a 360 camera, and he did a similar thing. And I like the DK's thing. It's cool. But I look for what is repeatable and what's usable. So the GoPros that are taken apart, the naked GoPros, you can't go to Best Buy and get one. You can't order it easily. It's I've heard horror stories with them, and the same thing with 360 cameras. So that's what my initial thought was with that. I had to make it so a stock 360 camera could be used, and then Insta360 has the aerial edition, which pretty much spreads it apart. And what that does is it's great for high stuff and things where you're far away, but once you get closer, it starts to mess with the stitch line drastically. So,
yeah, the further they put a whole Mavic in between the two lenses.
There's a good,
and so you have
you
have a huge stitch line.
Yeah, and so you can't get close.
Get that. Yeah, you can't get close to anything, which is exactly what you want with these little FPV rigs.
Yeah, we get close. We proximity fly. So that's where I was. So I wanted a pretty small rig. That's why the original did 3 and 4 inch props. And so I had a big old Max and a One R. That's the 2 cameras that I focused on. And then I had a battery, which is one of the biggest limiting factors in this whole thing because the batteries are so thick that they aren't invisible. So you have a limited option. So I started and built it around the 1,000 milliamp hour 3S. The motors, everything has to be within 22 millimeters. It's a very small thing to do with the quad. And so everything's squished. The pancake motors, that's how those originated. I can't say much, but there might be new batteries coming pretty soon that have that incorporated. Yeah.
You started out using that 1,000 milliamp hour 3S, which is a relatively thin battery, but you actually told me to get some of these 450 milliamp hour 3Ss, the kind that they use, like the beta FPV ones,
and
4S. Run 2 of them in parallel.
Yeah,
or the 4S,
because you can. That's the only way to get 4S thin enough at this point. So soon it'll be easier, but right now it's. But running those in parallel or in parallel, you want 900 milliamp 4S.
Now let's talk about the motors. The motors, we got these very small, flat pancake style motors. What size is it? I don't actually. Is it
2203?
2203.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's pretty much like a 1607 or 8 squished. And with that also brings different characteristics. So by widening the motor, it gives it more torque, but that increased torque and power can't be brought on as fast as a less diameter motor. So it takes a little bit of time for that to get up, which is actually perfect for cinematic stuff because what that does is give you a buffer. So it gives you this enormous amount of power, yet it brings it on in this smooth and delicate way, which helps the flight controller and the gyro and everything, the whole list of things.
sort of like smooths it out, like a cinematic preset.
Yeah.
Almost for the motors.
And also it's limited because I can only go 13.5 millimeters, 13.5 millimeters with the motor.
That's how you came up with the design of, or at least, you know, in 10 minutes, how you came up with the design of this guy.
Yeah.
I flew it, and I found myself flying it kind of like I normally fly a freestyle quad. And I realized there must be a mindset that goes into flying a 360 cam.
Oh, it's a
because
whole new
you're
world.
you're not just thinking I'm just going to fly this flight line.
No, yeah, you're exactly right.
Because you can cut it in post to look anywhere you want. Well, how are you thinking about creating a shot, setting up a shot, and using a 360 FPV cam?
Actually, before I get into that, picture this. You're flying Cine-Bird with a group of wild horses, okay? You get one take, all right? You're never going to get this shot again. You can actually go back and look to the left and see this horse. Cut it, go back and look to the right. You have every direction to go back and cut the same time period and get different looks. So that is an amazing potential of just being able to capture it.
You're saying you can, it's interesting because I've often thought about with 360 cams, the ability to reframe, but you're saying you can also retime.
Well,
you could take one shot and
turn it into
do
a million different things.
This horse to the right, this horse to the left. It's the same take at the same time.
Exactly. You don't, yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So the potential is like, and exactly like flying the Cine-Bird to get the shots. You don't have to look at it. You can ride along with the subject. You can go to the side of it, to the front of it, above it. You can go in any direction and not have to worry about framing your shot. Because that's, as a professional pilot, that's one of the biggest things directors are looking for. Your ability, because we don't have a gimbal. We don't have a second camera operator. We are the gimbal and our sticks. We are the camera operator as well as a drone operator. So they're looking for the shot. They don't care how you get it. So by having the shot be there no matter what angle you're looking at, it's a huge potential.
Let me ask you this. This is a question that I wasn't sure what the answer was. Mm-hmm. So when you're flying FPV, right, a lot of times you're pitched forward a little bit.
Yeah.
And that means your seam line is going to be directly in front of you, like angled down slightly.
Yeah, at the ground.
Which is oftentimes going to be, you're going to want to be looking. Yes. Maybe you're looking straight ahead.
So tips and tricks for this. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think you're getting.
How do you keep the subject out of the seam line?
So just don't look at it. No, I mean, no, you can, the seam line's actually really good in all directions. They do an impressive job, both of the cameras. And, but really, if you want to make sure to get it, if you're flying something, you can put your belly towards it or your back towards it, and so you have one full lens on it, and it depends how close you are and how sure you want to make sure you get the shot. The 360 cams have their limitations without the invisible drone. The stitch line, it's just something to work around. We have our tools; they have their things to work around. So I mean, yeah. So you want to. Definitely, if you want to make sure you get the shot, it's a weird feeling not looking at the subject and not looking at what you want to do, but it's literally it's how you can get a great shot. So it's a whole new world opening up.
You just kind of have a mental awareness, it sounds like, of where the stitch line is and where your subject is, and you just make absolutely sure that the subject is just not in the stitch line if possible.
You're far enough away, it really doesn't matter. So if you're close, then that could be a thing to do. And you can even go above or below so that, and you're angled. So it's just the edge. So, and it really, like I said, it depends on how close you are, but it's not as bad as you think.
It sounds like you're thinking about, I've got a subject and I need to be at a certain distance and a certain position relative to the subject. and you're not so much thinking about framing because you're going to frame it in post.
Yeah.
So you build these. I keep reaching back and getting it. Like, and we need it for a demo. I'd mostly just want to like look at it some more. You build the Cine-Birds for people, right? You sell them.
Yeah, I do.
If they want one, they can build it themselves, of course.
Yep.
But you'll build it for them and sell it to them.
Yep.
I can attest to the fact that it's very well built.
Thank you.
You definitely know what you're doing there.
I appreciate that, man.
I always say, like, if people say, which Cine-Whoop should I get? Now, I know yours is not a Cine-Whoop, but it's an example. They say, which Cine-Whoop should I get? And I go, well, I look at guys like Paul Nurkala. He's a pro. I look at guys like Tommy Tibahia. He's a pro. These guys go out, they shoot commercials, they shoot motion pictures. And whatever they use, whatever the pros use, right. That's probably something you can count on to get the shot and make it work. So when it comes to a 360 camera, I feel like people could probably rely on your gear since you're using it to actually, earn a living.
Thank you, man. And actually, I've got a bunch of emails because I do sell these, and people, like, for instance, one guy, he said that he just had a baby. And because of the Cine-Bird, he was able to get these 360 tour jobs and support his new baby and provide for them and do what he wanted to. And he thanked me so much. And like, people are making work. Definitely. It's a whole new thing that people don't even know. And like directors don't even know how to use it. Like it's something that it's kind of in the wild west of the way that it's edited, shot, what can be possible. Like every day I wake up to another customer video of like just amazing things they're doing it with it. And it's just like, yeah, it's the potential's just started to be made in the creations. I'm so excited to see what's in the future. So
yeah, what kind of work do you find that you're getting for like drone shots? I don't mean like DJI drone shots, like FPV drone shots. Mostly commercials.
Well, what is it's directors now are realizing the use of FPV drones. You have to give something that something else can't, because a lot of our shots can be done with a boom car, the car that drives around with the camera. And so you either hire us to do that cheaper, or you hire us to do something that nobody else can do. Big drones, they can't do dynamics like we can. So going from big to close and fast, or if needed, it's or through stuff, or it's close to things. You can't go close with a big Hollywood camera and a drone. So there's things you can do, especially with the guards. Like I make the guards too. I make universal guards for anything. And have you seen the ones for the Cine-Bird?
I think I've seen them. I don't have them on mine.
There's invisible ducks and invisible guards.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're flying close to actors, you probably don't want exposed props.
Right.
So it's a question. I do think I see guys like you, like Paul Nurkala, like Tommy Tibahia, they're getting jobs. So the directors are out there who recognize the what you can do with these drones, but it's still not super widespread, is it?
No, we're at the beginning of what could next be a big boom in the FPV business. Professionally, because like I said, directors are starting to realize what we can do above other things, and it's efficient. There's one guy, you don't need a whole, like there's so many benefits that it's a growing thing that's gonna become more. We're only at the beginning. Yeah.
You touched on something interesting, which is the difference between flying for fun, or maybe flying for YouTube, and flying in a professional environment, the ability to get the shot. Can you talk about some of the unique challenges of showing up on a professional shoot?
Flying for fun is the best, and that's where everybody needs to start. Because if you're going for YouTube, if you're going for professional Hollywood shoots, if you're going for anything, it needs to start because you love to do it. Because this hobby takes so much effort, time, and learning that if you don't love it, you really can't do it. And so it's I mean, to get to that level. So like to flying for fun, you don't have to be good to fly for fun. You just fly for fun. You do it because you love it. If you love it that much and you progress to the point where you can put a quad where it needs to be, where somebody needs to be it and time it, it's all about repeatability. You may be able to fly through a gap, but can you do it again? Can you do it 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 times? It's all about like a BMX or skateboarder. Like before I would compete, I would make sure I could do a trick 9 out of 10 times, because to do it professionally, you're at a different mindset. You don't get to do what you want to do anymore. You're listening to somebody else and they're telling you exactly where you need to be and what you need to do. So whether you think that's good or not, it doesn't matter. And all that matters is that you can get where that you need to be. So that's the big difference, I think, in fun flying versus professional flying. And it's awesome. Professional flying is awesome, and it's great. But it's a different world. It really is. It's serious. You have 100 people. It's $1 million shoot, possibly. Like there's so much riding on it, and there's so much pressure that you have to be able to handle more than what's given on a normal situation, because it's going to be crazy the day of.
Let me ask you this. A lot of people who are watching this are going to wonder how you transitioned from being a hobbyist to being a professional. Were you already in production before you got into FPV?
So I went to college for 6 years for 3D modeling and animation, like Pixar movie stuff. And after college, I was working some freelance stuff, and I live by Cleveland, and there's not too much. And so I was doing commercials and things for clients. And one of my clients was a truck driving school. So I did their like learning videos for all their students. And then I traded them for my CDL. So at that time I got my CDL, and I needed guaranteed money, man. And I was delivering beer for Budweiser. And then I had my daughter. And like I said, I had 2 ACL surgeries, and my back is wrecked from riding 15 years. And so when I told them, like, I'm here at the hospital, my daughter's being born, I'm not going to be there tomorrow. Like, I'm here. This is my priority. And they said, okay, you don't have a job to go to. So I took it as a time to give my back a break and to focus. If I might never have an opportunity to spend that much time with my daughter again, because I was working a lot of hours, and so I took the opportunity. At that same time, that's when I started watching YouTube videos, yourself being included. And I built Mr. Steele's butter quad. That was my first quad that I ever built myself. And I researched for 3 months, and I watched all the videos while watching my daughter. And then the first flight, I ended up in a creek like a mile away.
That's often how it goes.
So that was after flying a Phantom 4 for a year with my work, commercial work. And I underestimated how hard it really is. But then I fell in love at the same time. So like I started playing liftoff and just putting in a lot of time. I put about a month in on that before I got my quad back in the air. And at that point, I was coming off of a depression from not being able to ride, because I had to give up my bike about 3 years earlier. And like biking was my life. Like it was my passion. And I was like, that was everything to me. And it hurt that I couldn't do it anymore. And FPV pretty much gave me that feeling. It was the same mental feeling as riding my bike. But instead of flowing the skate park, I could flow the entire world. And it was like, there was nothing better. It was like no risk to my body. No, it just hurt my wallet maybe, but like I didn't have to go to the ER. So like it literally became my passion for the next 2 years. And just flying for fun, breaking my bank account. But it was my wife, my mom, they call me a crazy drone guy. like it's just something. It's something you have to put a lot of work into this, but it's worth it. Once it's like riding a bike or skateboard. When you land that kickflip, you're like, oh my God, I just did it. Like, this is a whole new, I can go do this everywhere. And so like, same thing with the drone. Like, the more you learn, the more you can do, and you can take I get a pretty good amount of builds, and people like them, and I'm happy and I love it. And so like, it organically turned into that. I couldn't have never asked for that. I could have never planned any of this business stuff. Every day I wake up with an empty slate, man. Like, it's just like, I don't know. I talk to CEO, I talk to huge people, Hollywood people. I never could have imagined that, man. I'm just this dude. I live in I live in a little city in Ohio. So it's like, it's amazing. Drones are cool.
let's say there's somebody out there and they think maybe it's time for them to go pro as a pilot. You know, they're going to hang out their shingle. How can somebody know if they are ready to try to go pro? I'm talking about like shooting commercials. I don't mean like as a YouTuber. Anybody can try as a YouTuber.
Everybody should make videos and learn and experience. I mean, I've never done this video stuff. I commend you, man. This stuff is not the easiest stuff to even set up. Like,
but how can somebody know that they're not going to like embarrass themselves on day one if they manage to get a job, which is a whole different thing?
Well, there's no way to say that. It's really per individual, because I've seen people really excel fast. I've seen people do things a year in, but really my basis on that recommendation is I recommend you fly at least a year fully and just do things, build quads, practice. Like, you don't know what you're getting into. So, so it's like, you have to be more ready than you think. And it's totally achievable. And people, it's really, you can get so many jobs by going out and showing a reel to businesses around where you live. Like, that's one of the best things to do. A recommendation for people to start, if you want to, offer people free jobs. That's the only way to, if you want to practice.
You're talking about like good, a car dealership, a bar.
If you want to get experience, just show them some of the things you could do. Say, I'll do this for free. I'll give you the footage to use, and you get experience, and you get something to show on your reel. And once you get a portfolio, that's what it's about. Then you can show people what you can do, and then you know if it's for you because you have experience in it and doing the actual thing. And it doesn't hurt getting another portfolio piece. Yeah. So that's what I tell everybody.
If you screw up, what are they going to do?
They're not pay you. Exactly.
Right. Just don't wreck your quad into one of the cars in the dealership lot. He's still going to that'd be bad.
Do not try this at home. Yeah.
I have no insurance. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Well, you deserve all the success that you got, and I hope even more. This is a really, really cool product. And just changes the game in terms of getting certain kinds of shots. I don't know. I mean, you have a huge following among hobbyists, so it must be. I was going to say, I don't know how it will translate to sort of your average hobbyist who's not, but anybody can really get. You really have to open your mind to the possibilities that a 360 cam can give you.
Yeah.
And explore and experiment. I've got like 3 or 4 packs on this only. No, I'm just be honest. Yeah. And I still don't feel like I'm still flying it like a freestyle drone, and I haven't unlocked its potential.
Right.
But I feel like there's this huge potential there.
Dude, there's also
it's really intriguing.
There's side potentials too. One of the things I've seen is this one guy's doing fake freestyle, where he's flying.
Right.
He's doing he's doing easy maneuvers with the quad. Like he's flying simply, but he's
just adding flips and rolls.
It's making it look like Rubik's Cube and like all these cool dives and effects.
That's cheating. It's cheating. No one should do that. No one should do that. That's cheating. All right, Stan, I really appreciate you talking to me today.
Yeah, man, my pleasure.
I'm going to keep trying to fly the dang thing until I manage to feel like I got something out of it.
Ooh, I'm going to send this to you to try too.
There's the big boy. Yeah, but I really appreciate you talking to me, and thank you for sending me the quad.
Anytime,
and
man.
Links in the video description to all your stuff. You know, if people want to get one of these quads, if people want to hire you for work, I'm gonna put some of your stuff in this video as well, so people can know what they get. And anything else you do. So,
thank you, man.
Thanks, man.
You're the man
for sure. Do you see this baby? Isn't he cute? Hit the subscribe button. Join my Patreon. Use my affiliate links. Or just keep watching videos. That's better than nothing. Go, go, gaga. Subscribe to my daddy.